Why, hello there. I want you to take a second and think about Spider-Man. It doesn't actually have to be Spider-Man, but I want you to think back to the first time you remember looking at a character on the screen or on the page or wherever and thinking, they're just like me. Spider-Man is just a good example and one that I personally relate to because he is very relatable by design. And what this relatability does for the audience is it serves us a path for us to project our own imagination and our own identity into this world of the extraordinary. It is a form of representation. Now, there's probably people watching this who think I must be some kind of crazy SJW, and they're just about ready to tune me out or write an angry comment. Please bear with me for a second. And then if you want to write an angry comment, go ahead. I want to share an analogy here. Think of your identity, all the different things that encompass who you are, as a Velcro strap. That might be a little weird, but bear with me here. See, a Velcro strap is one collective object that is comprised of a bunch of smaller components, the individual strands that make up a strap of Velcro. Every story that you run into or experience will connect with you in some way. It will latch on like Velcro, huh? You see where I'm going? And all stories will latch on to slightly different parts of your identity depending on the content of that story. But over time, that creates an uneven distribution because certain parts of who you are and your identity are going to be touched more often than others. Certain parts will be represented a lot and might even get worn out. You ever tried to use an old strap of Velcro? Doesn't really latch onto things as well as it used to, you know? You might get jaded by seeing the same thing over and over again. And meanwhile, you've got other parts of your identity that are just left on their own. They're never touched. Nothing reaches those. And over time, this can create a feeling of disappointment and longing and maybe even lead to suppressing those aspects of your identity. If we want to stick with the Velcro analogy here, you know, you don't want to leave a bunch of your Velcro untouched. That's not efficient. But moving on, I recently read a book called The Henna Artist by Alka Joshi. The book is about a woman named Lakshmi in 1950s India who does henna for a living. Henna is a type of hand and arm paint that is very popular in South Asia. Her plan is to earn enough money doing henna to build her own home. But it is complicated when a young girl named Radha shows up at her door and reveals that she is actually her sister who was born in her village after she left the village to go do henna. And now she has no one to take care of her because their parents died. This is a book where everyone and everything feels human because everything that happens is literally stuff that happened to real people at this point in time. There's nothing extraordinary at all. People are flawed and make bad decisions based on their character flaws. At this point, I should point out that I am not actually Indian. If you open up a map of the world and then zoom in a whole bunch, because you're not going to see it if you're zoomed all the way out, you'll see a small country on India's eastern border called Bangladesh. That, my friends, is where I was born. It is not India, but it is a part of the Indian subcontinent and was apparently close enough for the British, so, you know. Also, I grew up in Canada, which is why I sound like this. Mans are from Toronto, seen? Back to the Henna Artist. It's just a character drama, right? I've seen or read a million character dramas across various different mediums, but there is a reason why this one in particular felt so refreshing. It is one, written from a Western English language framework, which is what I relate to because that's where I grew up, and two, an authentic depiction of Desi culture written by an actual Desi person. It's a story where people are speaking, yelling, complaining, being bigoted, wearing clothes, doing everything in a way that is intimately familiar to me that I've seen since I was like a toddler at these like functions. Now, before I lose your attention, let's talk about Spider-Man again, all right? When people talk about representation, they're usually talking about the bigger bombastic stuff like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Hey, we want to see more representation in Spider-Man, so here's Miles Morales. Or for brown people like me, we want to see more representation of us, so now we're getting a Kamala Khan Miss Marvel movie, which is cool. And also double cool because the actress is from Toronto. She went to Ryerson, bro. And they're also giving us like jacked Kumail Nanjiani, which I think we can all agree nobody knew they wanted that, but everyone's glad we're getting it. Those types of stories are great, by the way, because they allow us to project our normality into an extraordinary circumstance or set of circumstances. And the Peter Parkers of the world are great for that. But now we get the Kamala Khans of the world, and get to see an aspect of our identity that we had never seen being projected into this extraordinary situation, surrounded by these other larger than life extraordinary figures like Peter Parker Spider-Man, or who's still alive? Thor. The point is, it's empowering, and this is empowering on a slightly different axis than what we might normally get. But other stories like the Henna Artist have a very different effect. They say that you, yes, you specifically, person watching this, whoever you are, your mundane, boring life, your everyday, ordinary struggles, these things are all a valid story as well. They don't need to be glamorized, they don't need to be exaggerated or placed in an extraordinary context. They're stories worth telling just as they are. And that, my friends, is also empowering. And neither one of these two things, these two drastically different things, take away from the other. See, the reality is representation is additive. It exposes every possible combination of traits and experiences. It's like creating a giant Velcro strap that we can all latch onto and stay on because it latches onto the parts that aren't quite as worn out, in addition to the parts that are. Nobody has to be a loser here. So let me know if you have an opinion on this topic, but please be nice. I mean, it's YouTube, so I know that's not going to happen unless literally no one comments, but please try to be civil and polite and all that. And if you like the content, feel free to drop a like. I'm doing this very free form, I'm just kind of vibing with a mic in my hand. I'm ethnically from Bangladesh, and fun fact, literally every Bangladeshi parent sings. So I just have microphones like in my house, so why not, right? All right, bye.